Welcome to Laguna Podcast, an attempt at illustrating the lives and stories from Texas outdoors. Today I sit down with one of the men behind one of the biggest revolutions in modern fishing since the roto-molded cooler, Turtlebox. This is my conversation with Will Bradley.
Yeah.
Boom, now we're talking.
Now we're cooking with gas.
I like it.
All right. Are you ready to rock and roll?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I got Mr. Will Bradley in the chair today. And since you mentioned that you haven't had a chance to really listen to this project before, the way I like to run these is very, very simple. The first question, the only question I really lead with is run me through your run me through your first memory in the outdoors and kind of the chronological progression of you as an outdoorsman first, leading up to what then became this?
Wow, that's a great question. First memory that just pops to mind, it's not the first memory of being in the outdoors, is going fishing with my dad. We would wake up usually like 4:30. We didn't have a boat, so we grew up just wade fishing the Texas coast. So anyway, show up at 4:30. He's there waiting on me. I'm coming home from a friend's house. I had to get there by 4:30, And he's waiting in the driveway. We jump in, and he gets pulled over on the way over, like on 610 South. Mm-hmm. Gets arrested. I'm 16 at the time, I think, maybe 15, but I had my driver's license, I guess, or learner's, and drive home, go back to bed. Mom's like, what happened? I was like, I don't know. Where's Dad? I don't know. Just went back to bed. Long story short, it was my dog got out and attacked the mailman, and he didn't show up to court, and they put a warrant out for my dad, and he ended up getting arrested. And so he shows up at the court with the dog and takes the dog in the court, and the bailiff's like, you can't take this dog into court. And he goes, bet your ass I can. He got a warrant for his arrest for not being here. He's going in to see the judge. And then they threw it out. But anyway, that was he didn't usually get arrested. That was a one and done. But that was a very common theme for us, is we'd wake up early, go hit the coast. We mostly hit kind of the San Luis Pass area a lot, Christmas Bay. We're in Houston, so it's 50-minute drive or something down there. So
Yeah.
But yeah, he's the one that taught me to fish. Another funny story about him: anytime he got a rent-a-car, like if his car was in the shop and we had a rental, we went fishing. We would road trip fish. So like, we've literally fished everywhere from Mexico to Louisiana, mostly in rental cars. Yeah, just wade fishing the whole coast, and we turn it back in. Like there's the old Seinfeld episode where he's like, "You better give me that insurance because I'm going to beat the hell out of this thing." And that was my dad. He get the $10 insurance, and we would go fishing, man, cruising the beaches and all different kind of stuff, and it would come back smelling like a dead fish, and he'd turn it back in, give him the keys, and say thank you very much.
And well, so from these kind of days, how I feel like there's, or correct me if I'm wrong, was there a long time between this moment, like, or those kind of days, to where you kind of found yourself considering the possibility of starting this brand? I kind of want to just know the choices, the life choices that it took for you to get to the point where you're like, hey, this might be something worth pursuing.
Yeah. There's not a big difference. Like I said, we just spent most of our free time, if we had it, outside of sports and school, fishing or going down the coast. My dad was also a big sailor, more than he was a fisherman. Yeah. So he loved to sail. He passed that on to me. I love sailing, and more than sailing or fishing, I just love the water. Like if I'm having a bad day or something, I want to be on the water. I'm going to drive down on the coast, and, something about driving over that bridge, like kind of the world melts away, and you can think clearly. And, I always say that's where I see God, down there on the coast. So I always try to get down to the water whenever I can. So he instilled that love. And, Turtlebox was born out of that. It wasn't like this great big business plan that happened. I was using whatever speakers were available back in 2012, and there weren't as many like there are today, and certainly none for the outdoors. And so I broke a few speakers, and just kind of normal outdoor stuff. Wasn't like doing crazy offshore stuff with a Turtlebox and soaking it in salt water. It just wasn't, electronics in the outdoors, especially saltwater, don't mix. And so it was really around this old Hobie catamaran I had. It was my granddad's. Me and my dad fixed it up, and
This episode is made possible by our friends over at Gordy & Sons Outfitters, located in Houston, Texas, and employing a team of experienced outdoorsmen specializing in fly fishing, hunting, and wing shooting. Gordy & Sons is sure to prepare you for success in the outdoors. Next time you find yourself prepping for a weekend getaway or a bucket list trip, be sure to give them a shout.
I was envisioning something that could sit up there and get salt spray all over it. Like I need it to be loud, but it needs to get covered in salt water, but loud enough to hear over the wind and the waves. And so kind of had this, and a lot of guys were doing these cooler speaker projects.
Oh, okay.
And then me and another one of my roommates at the time were kind of thinking through a hi-fi speaker. We all love sound, and we're all super resourceful guys. There's four of us that started Turtlebox together. We've got 3 other partners. We were all roommates at the time when this was kind of all going down in about 2012. All single, lived on an acre in Buffalo Bayou, and kind of had the idea for this thing. And we all kind of built it and built this brand and business in our garage, but it wasn't meant to be a business at first. It was just a speaker to kind of live for our pursuits.
How was the blueprinting in that brainstorming process and in these garage days, so to speak?
Yeah. Well, the first one wasn't a business. It was just to kind of survive the Texas coast and be loud and for us. And so it's actually here in the office. You can go check it out.
I definitely will.
But it was very similar to the Turtlebox we have now. It's a 6x9 and a basically a Pelican case, an off-market Pelican case, and about 20 boat parts. So like most of these things came from West Marine or eBay. I don't even know if Amazon was what it was back then, but all the parts were marine grade. So the switches, the lights, the amplifiers, everything except for the battery. Battery tech wasn't what it was back then, so we used a motorcycle battery that had the cold cranking amps that could give it enough power to be loud. That was kind of the main problem with a lot of stuff out there. And so this thing was loud, it was waterproof and marine grade. And the thought behind it was, I need something super loud, but I need to be like portable, like the size of a lunchbox, and did a lot of car audio back in the day. And I remember like the old 6x9s when I was growing up that me and my dad used to tinker on cars and stuff. And a lot of the old 80s cars had these big old rocking 6x9s in the back. And so I was thinking, 6x9. Is that just from the surface area of the speaker was the biggest amount of surface area you could fit into that Pelican case and get the loudness that you want. Like imagine it wasn't big enough to fit like 2 6s, but it was big enough, perfect size for one 6x9. And that was kind of the design for the first one. And one of my other roommates, Jonathan, was like, well, it's about a year after all this, friends were wanting to buy it. And he's like, man, I think this is good business. We should go into business together. And after a couple beers, we're like, yeah, that's a great idea. And we're like, what are we going to call it? And then Reagan, my other partner, was like, it's a Turtlebox. And we're like, yes, it is a Turtlebox. So the naming of it and the company and the brand all started in like 5 minutes over a couple beers, which is crazy. And Reagan was the only one with some wisdom. He said, he kind of thought about it for, instead of 2 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. And he said, a partnership is the hardest ship to sail. I'm like, all right, let's do it. So,
one more round.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that kicked it off. We kicked off about a year of us making them in the garage, and and those were that was super hard days, by the way. I'm going to tell it all real quickly, but there was a lot that went into all that. Late nights building them. We all had full-time jobs. How many do you think y'all sold in that first year? Only 50. We built and sold 50, which was like a major production. It was at Christmas time. So Christmas, it's like a sweatshop back there. We're grinding it out late nights to get these Christmas ones done in time. And before that, it was, probably tested or looked at 2,000 different parts to go into this thing. Doing this on my day job computer, kind of. And we sold 50 of them. And actually, our investor now, only investor, he bought one of the first 50.
Oh.
And so, but after those 50, we said, all right, there's a real business here. We're selling for $350 back then. And basically said, yeah, there's a market for it. There's a real niche. Let's figure out how to basically make this profitable, go mass market. And man, that was hard. But we put together a performa, figured out what the tooling cost would be, met with a few different suppliers. We were starting from zero. We knew nothing about getting this thing mass market. And so it was a big learning curve. And it took us 4 years from that moment to actually launching the product mass market, our first Gen 1 product. And that launched, it'll be 7 years this coming July 25.
So you were producing out of the garage for about 4 years?
1 year.
But then, so how did you guys move over, start figuring out how to do mass marketing, but never fully launched as a product? You were guys just like,
yeah, we didn't have anything to sell. Yeah.
Here's some stuff. Okay.
Yeah. Really just designing, building the product. So designing something that was, tooled, injection molded, and then basically designing our own amp, and everything from ground up. So yeah, it was super hard. Went through a few different manufacturers, audio engineers, industrial designers, but ultimately got it done.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it was a big moment when we sent that first check off to get 500 was our first PO. So, and we were sweating bullets, man. We were nervous. Like, what happens if they don't show up or they take our money? And it's like, hey, we'll go get them, and like, what if they don't sell? I was like, well, I'll get in my truck and we'll drive to Florida and we'll sell these things. I mean, but it was risky. I mean, no one else is doing stuff like this. Everybody's has their head down in their corporate jobs, as did we. And so this was a big risk at the time. And, but it was awesome.
Who were some of the people that you've maybe when the brand launched officially immediately saw value and it started working with y'all like as partners?
Yeah, that's a good question. And there's been a lot of great friends along the way. I can
imagine. Yeah.
I know you just interviewed John Dunaway. I remember, I can't remember who connected us to John Dunaway. Somebody said, man, you got to meet John. He's kind of a local ambassador, influencer guy. I didn't even know what an influencer was back then, or how they worked, or what they get paid, or if they get paid. Or, I didn't know anything, but like, all right, I'll go meet him. And I remember I was kind of nervous meeting him. I was like, he sits down and he's the coolest guy ever. Me and Jonathan go meet him at Morgan Weber's bar in the Heights, 8th Road Flint on 11th. Anyway, so we sit down and he's like, oh, what's up, man? And I was like, well, I wanted to introduce myself and show you this Turtlebox. And, I was kind of like fumbling over my words. And he's never heard me say this. It'd be kind of funny to hear him say it. Now he's a very good friend, great dude. And he's like, cool. I was like, well, what do we do? I mean, would you be interested in talking about it? He goes, yeah, I mean, cool. If I like it, I'll use it and I'll talk about it. I was like, all right, cool. Well, what else do you want to talk about? So I gave him a Turtlebox and he fell in love with it. And just a great dude. He was kind of one of the early ones, along with Morgan Weber. Both those guys, met those guys that day. There's a ton of them. Brian Little with Sabine Skiffs. Our Houston Fishing Show was one of our first shows, and always be right across from Brian. Ended up buying one of his boats 5 years ago or something, and got to know him. And a lot of the Texas coast guys. There's some great guys in the fly fishing community.
Yeah. How was that first show?
It was good, man. It was kind of nerve-wracking. Met a lot of guys I looked up to, like Jimmy Burns and with Waterloo rods. I remember introducing him to the product, and same thing. Was kind of nervous to show him, and he was like, "Dude, this is awesome! Like, I'll start carrying it at my store," and he did. And he's still a great retail partner to this day, and he's like the Kevin Bacon of saltwater fishing on the Texas coast. Like, everybody's like 1 degree removed from Jimmy Burns, and so. Anyway, he was a great dude. I can think of a lot of them. Oh, our first store actually was Anglers Anonymous out in Katy. Are you familiar with that store?
I think I've heard it before.
It's
for some reason I thought you were saying Angler's Edge, and that was what kind of prompted me to say something. But I do think I have heard it before. Phenomenal store. Guys travel, I say, 100 miles from all over to go to the store just because they have real unique stuff. And just great dudes, and it's out there in Katy. So they were our very first store, and that was pretty cool. And I can't remember how many
put in the store. I'm sure he started with one or two, and but they've been a great partner. Still with us, still a great dealer out there in Katy, and they're like the best fishing store for conventional tackle on the Texas coast.
Okay.
And they've got just some great stuff, which is still my favorite way to fish. I still consider myself very much amateur saltwater fly fisherman, but I still prefer the conventional stuff I grew up going with my dad. But it's kind of with the skiff, with the Sabine, it's kind of allowed me to marry the two pursuits, you know?
Totally.
Fish skinnier water and fish it conventional or fly if the weather's, lined up and it's a good day for that. So it's been cool, kind of marrying those, and it's made me a better angler for sure.
I can imagine. And I've said this before, but I used to be like a hardcore purist way back, like about a year and a half ago. I used to be like fly or die. Mm-hmm. Over the time though, like the more people I've fished with, like true high level, high caliber anglers, I start to realize that that's not really the case. I love casting. I love the distance stuff. I think that in and of itself is its own merit, but I've seen, some of the high level anglers like can do really, really interesting creative things with casting through spinning rods and bait casting rods. And it kind of made me realize that I was kind of coming at it from an angle, almost like a little bit naive, saying like, oh, like fly fishing is the only way to do it, whatever. And it's actually made me almost more excited to be in the space now overall than the way I was before. Mm-hmm. I kind of want to use it as a segue though into, because you mentioned you're an amateur saltwater fly fisherman. I would like to know the first time you held a fly rod.
Yeah, this is funny. I don't think I told Brian this, but I had never saltwater fly fished when I placed that order for that Sabine skiff 5 years ago. That was kind of funny. But I just liked the boat. I liked them. I liked, that it was Texas made, and I liked that it was in Kima, and just a cool boat. And, I could think of all the things I could do with it. I could duck hunt out of it. I did a lot of duck hunting back then. Don't do as much as now. I've got 3 little kids, and waking up at 3:30 isn't as fun as it used to be. Enjoy sleeping in a little bit more. Not as mad at them as I was in my 20s and 30s. I'd never, I'd only like freshwater fly fish before, which is just totally different. And so, it was a new pursuit. And a guy named Carter Morbury took me out. He had a Sabine,
mm-hmm.
and so
he's a photographer.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to get with him to do one of these also. Yeah,
great dude. Met him at the Houston Fishing Show, and kind of just fast friends. And he goes, "Hey, you want to?" I was like, told him I was getting one, and he has one, so we were kind of connected through that. And he goes, "Well, have you ever been out on one?" I said, "No." I was like, "Let's go next week." So he took me out, introduced me to saltwater fly fishing. Man, fell in love. I also like bow hunting. That's probably my favorite thing to do in the fall.
Okay, all right.
And I feel like it's saltwater fly fishing is kind of like that. It's a lot like bow hunting. It's stealthy, stalking up, and getting close and like taking that perfect shot on what you're pursuing instead of just blind casting. And so it was cool. Really fell in love with it, and got to explore a lot of new waters that I didn't fish before, especially some of the deep back lakes and stuff like that.
I understand that. One of the things that I find funny is I was over at Trout Fest this last couple of days, and I forgot who I was talking to, and they drew a really good analogy between distance casting and distance archery. And so one of the reasons I kind of was bringing this up, and I'm glad you brought it up, was I also used to like be a really big fan of just actual archery for the sake of archery, not really hunting. I never really had a chance to go and shoot anything. It was always at targets and stuff. And I'd always dreamed of like spot and stalking my own like giant elk with a recurve bow, or like a grizzly with a recurve bow. But I'm curious as to know, I feel like you may have had a chance to do quite a few things with a bow. Or is there any kind of events that you can recall that you're fond of with a bow in your hand?
Typically it's whitetail, big whitetail deer in South Texas. Got a leash right on the Rio Grande, and so it's a great place to go. It's all low fence, and so you never know what you're going to see. It's like it's true deer hunting, and it's spectacular. It's so fun. But so kind of learned doing that, and then got to go on my first elk hunt with a bow back in August, and that was maybe one of my favorite things I've ever done. It's been on the bucket list for a while. Did not get an elk. Did not see an elk. I did see a cow. Never saw a bull. But man, it was fantastic. I used to love climbing mountains. I would go in my 20s, would climb a 14er every year, every September.
Damn.
Now with my bad knees, it's like I don't do it anymore. I still like to hike and stuff, but now it's more like with the kids. But this was pretty hardcore. We horsebacked up and about to where the tree line is. So I think we were like at 11,000 feet, and set up camp for 5 days, 5 nights, 6 days, and then you're just kind of day hiking out with a big backpack and your bow and a lot of gear. And so anyway, it was kind of combining some of the favorite things that I love, like being in the mountains, being in the outdoors, and just like truly on your own. I mean, it was you're by yourself all day, and man, it was awesome. Just kind of spotting and stalking and hearing them and trying to get closer, but never had one come in. So
It's so
but
cool.
it just fired me up to go back. That's all it did.
Have you ever killed a nilgai?
Never have, no.
Oh, I mean, I figured you would have. I've also wanted to kill a nilgai, like a big bull, but again, never had the opportunity. I may have had one opportunity once on my friend's ranch, but never really took it. Never really like felt the allure towards it for some reason up until recently. Now it's like, well, now I kind of really want to.
I like the meat, so I do want to shoot one for that reason. It's just stock
Well,
the
yes,
fridge
for
up.
that, yeah, fair.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I do think is really cool is, and I was gonna wait for later, but I figured this might give us more talking points, was when y'all brought out the Grande. So I didn't really know how like pages worked on Instagram and stuff like 2-3 years ago, and I remember there was a post that Turtlebox had done, and I'm sure the comment's still there, but it was like asking for suggestions or something like that. And I commented, because for just a little bit, I got into making music. So I was really privy to, or not privy, quite the opposite, but I was like pretty, useful in that area. I understood what an audio spectrum looked like. And I remember like I had mine, I still have it, but I commented, I was like, man, like I feel like there's just something missing in the 1,000 kilohertz range, a little bit higher, like just for just perceived loudness for LUFs. And I didn't know that at the time. There was marketing managers who don't really understand that portion, so it just came off like a little standoffish. And what I ended up doing was, this is before the Grande, I ended up finding a brand called the Soundbox, and it's obviously like it's a pretty loud speaker, but the problem is it's super heavy.
Yeah.
And so for the longest time, I really thought I was going to be stuck with just that big soundbox and like taking the middle of like where I sit on the skiff. And so when y'all brought out the Grande, I was actually like kind of relieved, because it's like, man, it's a kind of nice knowing that I don't have to lug around the 32 pounds of speaker with me everywhere I go now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a phenomenal product. I love that thing. Actually, it's like a portable PA, but it's, like you said, it's not super portable. So. And it's not something you're going to put on your boat or have outside or even near the rain. I wouldn't.
No shit, I'll put the Grande will leave so much more space in my skiff now. I'll definitely run that one, especially for guys running Tohatsus. I mean, huge difference.
Yeah, those Tohatsus are loud, and so the Grande, well, a Gen 1 is or Gen 2 is plenty loud, but I usually run 2, even if I'm not like cranked in all the way. I just like the sound of 2, like true left right stereo. But the Grande is it's been 3 years in the making. It's a block rocker, 10-inch pro level woofer driver. It's just phenomenal. We had 2 of them in a Panga, 28-foot Panga in Mexico with 300 on the back, running wide open. Had the 2 Grandes running wide open, and dude, people were freaking out. Like the guide was freaking out. I was freaking out because I haven't heard him in that scenario. I mean, I've heard him at the office and tested him, but like in real world use case, I was like, dude, this is a good product. This is going to change the game for bigger boats, bay boats, but even like, man, offshore boats that put 2 of those in the back. I mean, it's gonna freaking crank. So.
Totally. Well, and genuine question though, what was probably one of the hardest, I don't know, scenarios, or not scenarios, but one of the hardest things to figure out when y'all were creating that Grande? Because I mean, 3 years, I feel like there's a lot of hiccups that come along in 3 years.
Yeah, just with the way that we use them, again, around saltwater and the things that, the use cases that I'm envisioning this thing's going to get used on, we have to test it for like a year. So we've had them for almost a year and a half, just constantly making little improvements, making it better, making the sound better, making the firmware better. And I bet we spent 6 months just on the firmware, which is all different kind of use cases. Like, hey, I switched from Spotify to YouTube, and then the volume cuts out or it disconnects. I mean, just all these different use cases, or you got to test it on all different phones and computers. And I mean, it's a piece of electronics. So I mean, it's not like just developing a rotomolded cooler or something.
Yeah,
that,
or like gears and stuff. It's just
I mean, imagine having like your DVD player on your boat or something. I mean, it's I think people think it's like a Yeti cooler, but you got to remember it's a piece of electronics. It's got all kind of systems and software and hardware in there, and so getting that ready for the outdoors and the way that people are going to use it takes a long time. Drop testing and just doing the sound curves outside and making sure you can hear the thing at 30 feet away. And I think we're the only company that does that. So yeah, there was a lot of hard processes in that. But it was fun.
Can imagine, yeah.
That was fun.
Probably one of the more of the less technical questions, more intrapersonal questions, but through Turtlebox, what are some of the places you've been able to go visit that you wouldn't have been able to had it not been for this company?
Yeah. One of the things on my bucket list was talking about was that 28-foot panga was in Los Mag Bay. And I was fishing with some guys called Los Locos guys.
I can imagine, yes.
Out of Mag Bay. And fly fishing for a marlin is, I mean, dude, it's ridiculous. I tell people it's like riding a bull and casting a fly rod at a moving target, and it's awesome. And those guys make it so fun. Like they're probably on top of like the most amazing place and all of that and amazing species. That crew is just, man, they're fun to fish with. Like I would fish with those guys any day. Like when you hook up, like they're more excited than you are, like just yelling, like yes, like I mean it's so fun. And when you get on a bait ball and like the boat's flying up and down, and there's no like basket or anything you're staying in. I mean, like you're just got your feet spread and you're trying not to step on your line and trying to get a shot on, right when the boat kind of gets close enough to that bait ball and like try to land it, dude. It's freaking awesome.
I can imagine. How many days were y'all there?
Only fished 2 days, so 2 nights, and then a travel day there and a travel day back. So most trips with mainly it's the kids and family, I'll try to make it 2 nights max. It's just too hard to be away, from family and the business and all that. It's just it's usually 2 nights is what works best.
And I can imagine. How many fish y'all jump?
Maybe 10 that day, something like that. Damn. I think the first day was like maybe 13. So first day, like we trolled, kind of like you would on a normal boat, but you're casting off the back, so you kind of got a teaser, and that was super fun and a great way to learn, because just practicing with bigger line. Like I'd been tarpon fishing, but this was my first time for marlin, and just throwing that heavier line and all that, and just practicing, getting comfortable with it. And the next day we were chasing the bait balls, and that's where it got a lot more rowdy. Like you really had to be on your A game, because you just kind of had a split second to make that shot. Because the bait ball's moving, and fish are exploding and birds are diving. It's so freaking fun.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine. What aside from Mag Bay, are there any? Actually, no. Better yet, I feel like this is a great segue to tell the story that I walked in telling you to tell me with John in Louisiana and whatnot.
Oh yeah. Yeah, this wasn't fly fishing. We were offshore fishing with it was pretty awesome. It's a group called Gulf of America Outfitters, and they've become good friends. We actually sponsored their 2 of their boats. We got 2 37 Freemans down in South Louisiana. I think they have 3 now, which is a great group to go with, by the way. What's funny about that is they named it that like 3 years ago, and then Trump came out and renamed it. So I was texting him when that happened, and he's like, "Oh, dude, I'm already ordering shirts. Like people are freaking out. Like
that's so fucking cool."
And everybody thought he named it because of Trump, like trying to be funny. He was like, "No, dude."
That's what I did. He just told me.
Yeah, but he had the name like locked down, because he had it for 3 years, and then Trump goes and changes the whole Gulf of America. Who knew you could even do that? So it was pretty awesome. So he's selling all these hats and shirts, and it was pretty cool. Anyway, yeah, we're trying to get down there, and our plane's delayed. I go meet John. He's the one I was talking about earlier. So one of the first ambassadors of Turtlebox, actually, and now he's a good buddy. And we're going kind of a last minute trip. And dude, the planes keep getting canceled. It was when all that nonsense was going on a year ago or 2 with computers and all the booking stuff.
Oh,
Planes
okay,
were
yeah.
we couldn't go. Like the plane kept moving back. So I was like, dude, we got to go. So I switched us to United, got a United flight. That one starts getting delayed. And we sit up there till like, I don't know, 9:30 at night. Our flight was supposed to be at 5:30, something like that. I don't remember what time we took off, but we got there to like 1 a.m. And wake up at 5 to go fishing. And then the weather's terrible. I mean, like there is no fishing. So Adam, the owner, he's like, well, let's just start making some crawfish and drink some beer. And so we do that and basically have great crawfish boil that morning. And finally, like about noon, 11, I think at noonish, the weather looks like we have a window, and we're like, let's hit it, let's go. And we go out there and we just hammer them. And so we come back, super fun day, and obviously worth the trip. And I guess the point John was probably trying to make was that you just got to commit to it and got to go even when it's hard, and like squeeze it in and just make it happen. That's what he was saying about me. He's like, dude, you just made it happen. You were not going to take no for an answer. Like we were not supposed to go on this trip, but we made it. And then on the way back, he had to get back for a baseball game for his son. And so we booked a 6:30 flight out of New Orleans. And so we get there at like 5:15, plenty of time, like right on time. Woke up early. And I drop him. I was like, hey, you want me to just drop you here and I'll go return the car? And he goes, nah, I'll ride with you. Takes us 45 minutes to return the stupid car and get back. So at this point, we're like almost late. I mean, we are late. We go through security. We both have clear and TSA pre, but both of our clears is like reset. They got to re-register us. And dude, by the time we get through security, it's 15 minutes till the flight. And we just take off running. We get to the gate. There's no one at the gate. The gate's closed. There's not even a stewardess at the gate. So we go to the next 2 gates over, and there's a guy there. And he goes, oh, yeah, you missed that flight. And I was like, dude, we got to get on. He's got to get to his kid's baseball game. Like, is there anything to do? And he goes, hold on. Makes a call. Someone comes up from the tarmac, like, opens the door. There's no stewardess. There's not even any person to check our ticket. Like, they don't even scan our ticket. They look at it, and they're like, all right, come on. And don't even, like, that never happens. So that was a Southwest flight. So props to Southwest for making that happen. And we got on, made it to the kids' game. And anyway, it was a quick one-nighter. Great trip to Louisiana, hammered the fish in the now Gulf of America.
Southwest ain't gonna like that.
Yeah, it was good.
Man, that's cool. I would have never guessed that though. I feel like I've always heard that it's the rule where it's like whenever the doors close, it's like game over. Like you're cooked. Yeah.
I've had to watch a plane leave when that's happened before.
I mean, same thing. Like that's why I was like, of all things, really? Like,
yeah, no, I don't know. I had one time. This was like in college. Same thing. Get to the door closes. I'm like, please let me on. I'm like, sorry, sir. Once the door is closed, we're not allowed to reopen the door. It's at risk. I'm like, I was like, okay, well. And right about then, another stewardess walks out and the door's open. I'm like, hold the door. And she like walks up, takes her time, stands in front of me, like waits for the door till you can hear it go shut. And then she goes, I'm sorry, sir. Once the door's shut, we're not allowed to
really?
Like, dude, y'all killing me. And I just sit there for like 15 minutes and wait for it to take off. I was like, oh, it was brutal.
I hate to see it.
Not this trip though. Yeah, that was a good one.
That's funny. I'm curious as to how do I put it? I'm not gonna lie, I lost my train of thought.
You asked me any other great trips that Turtlebox has afforded. There's two.
I feel like there's definitely quite a few, right?
Like, man, there's too many to mention. One, there's like just met some amazing world class people. Also got to go fly fishing for tarpon out of Florida
with
Brett Martina. I was trying to think of his guide's name. Anyway, out of Apalachicola. I can't think of his outfitter's name. Anyway, Brett Martina. Stud, though. Just great guy. And he's an Turtlebox ambassador, which I think allowed us to get on his calendar because I'm sure it's pretty full up. So it's like him and David Mangum kind of run that whole coastline. And, man, it was phenomenal. He's a good teacher. he'll yell at you when you mess up, but he's cheering you on when you land the fish. And he's a good teacher too. So that was my first time to throw a 12 weight was with him, and so great teacher, a lot of patience, and yeah, put me on the fish. My first tarpon a year ago, and then one of the best like redfish trips I've ever done was with JT Van Zandt, and never met him before. Talked to him on the phone a few times. He's an ambassador as well. And everybody knows JT, obviously, in the Texas coast. So I was excited to go fish with him. We were shooting some video too, so it was more of a content trip, not a just all day fishing trip. But got to get on his boat, and I forgot my water. And one of the guys I was with was like, dude, can't. I was like, so I go in the gas station and buy water, right? Like, you can't bring water. He doesn't like bottled water. You got to have your own, like, just trying to save the planet. And so I was a little nervous. I was like, what's he going to say? And that was kind of my first impression of JT. I was like, oh man, he's going to be a hard ass about this water. And when I meet him, he is the nicest, kindest dude. And like, obviously could care less about the water or pretty much anything. He's like most down to earth, super chill, just easygoing dude. And we have a phenomenal day on the water. But what I'll say about JT is he's the best professor, like the best teacher of fly fishing I've ever met. Like,
in what way?
He's very calm. He's very patient. Like, I call him the professor. Like, he's one of the things he said that stuck with me. He goes, see those fish? Like, they're happy fish. Their tails up, but heads down. They're feeding, and he goes, you need to match the tempo of the fish. Like, that stuck with me because that's usually like when I mess up. It's like I'm casting too fast or get too excited.
Interesting.
And you speed up your cast, or you don't cast like your usual self, and you miss a fish.
Get all jagged. No, I get you.
And again, amateur, remember? And so, but yeah, he said match the tempo of the fish, and like calm, and man, that stuck with me. I thought that was really good advice. But no, he's a very good teacher. There's a reason why he's great, why he's a legend, and I think it's because he's such a good teacher. People enjoy fishing with him, and
that's interesting.
Puts you on more fish, and like if you're calm and collected, and he's calm and collected, like it's good. Oh, and I got to pull JT up on a fish. Like I was like, dude, all right, enough of me. Let me guide you. Like that would be more of an honor. And he taught me a little bit about that too, like just being stealthy and like being super quiet and how to approach him. And getting to put him on a fish was actually probably more fun than him putting me on a fish.
Was that before or after you'd purchased a skiff from Brian?
This is maybe a few years ago. It's way after. Maybe a couple years ago. So I've been doing it for a couple years, but still figuring it out and getting better. And it's like bow hunting. I mean, for me anyway. You tell me, but I feel like it's something that you're always working at and getting better at.
Yeah, totally.
Like always improving, and even in conventional, like I'm still becoming a better angler and learning and as much as I can. And YouTube has certainly helped with that. Like back in the day with my dad, like I learned everything from my dad. Like, I mean, there was no YouTube. Maybe there was a book or two.
Did he teach you how to get into the bow hunting stuff? Or was
that's actually my father-in-law. My wife at the time had shot bigger deer than I had when we got married 10 years ago. And so, she was a bow hunter, and he purchased me my first bow and kind of taught me how to do it and get into it. And I was more of a bird hunter back then. Still am. It's still probably my favorite thing to do, just dove and duck. But bow hunting was kind of a new experience, but fell in love with it. It's just wild. I don't know. It's fun.
Have you done it? Have you done it in South Texas, like in the near South Padre Arroyo area?
Our spot is in South Texas, so like right on the border, but it's closer to Carrizo Springs.
Oh, you're still in the right spot though. I mean, you're still seeing crazy stuff.
But yeah, we're pretty dang far from South Padre. I mean, I think it's like six hours. I've actually looked at going from a fishing trip up to the ranch. I'm like, this isn't saving me any time. It's almost the exact distance from Houston to the ranch as it is from South Padre up to Southwest Texas. So
okay, well, never mind.
Is just
avoid that last part.
Texas is so big. It's crazy.
I've noticed it. I've noticed that because like for a while I thought I was covering a lot of people in different areas, but they were all kind of on the coast. And there's been two folk that I'm trying to get on a podcast with. One of them being Wyman Menzer, and I mean he lives 6 hours northwest of me.
Yeah,
He's
a legend, dude.
Yeah,
I've never met him. I would love to meet him.
yeah. I spoke with him over the phone. The first thing he said, he goes, how do you say your name? Andres Spaghetti? And I was like, excuse. I was like, what? Like I haven't heard that since like second grade.
Oh, dude, that's gonna stick. I may have to start calling you that. That's good.
Oh yeah. I've always been interested in who mentors who in the aspect of like, for example, you with your bow hunting, or even for some reason maybe your creativity or something. I think it's always been a very important thing that I make a point to always talk about who got you into these things, because I feel like that's one of the problems that we don't see nowadays. Everyone wants to be me, I did this, I'm the creator, no one helped. And it's always kind of sat ill-fated with me, or just bittersweet with me. And that's why I asked if there was anyone who you think had mentored you in the bow stuff, but just in general, actually, like you as an individual, are there any other people that you kind of like look up to or kind of take inspiration from?
Oh yeah, there's a ton. First give credit to my dad just because he taught me a lot. He's the most resourceful man I've ever met. He would do everything by himself. I always say there's nothing he couldn't do. Like if something was broke, like we fixed it. We never outsourced anything. He passed a few years ago, like 5 years ago. Cancer got him, but I told this story at his funeral. There was a perfect example of this. Was our roof needed to be redone, and he was a fix-it. He could fix everything. He taught me how to fix cars, all kind of things. But surely a roof you outsource, right? Like that's just kind of one thing. Like we should probably outsource the roof, but no. Somehow he rents or finds this tar wheel, so we've got hot smoking tar out there in the driveway. And to me, I'm probably in middle school at this time, maybe fifth, sixth grade. Yeah, it would have been fifth grade. My uncle and him, and we're out there tarring this roof and then putting the shingles on. And I still remember it vividly. Putting the hammer in it, had this big square hammer, square head with these big round like washers kind of things with the nail through it, and just hammer them down all day. And then we set it and we finished it like that night. The sun's going down, and popped some cold pops up on the roof, and we were like kings up there. You just can't you can't forget that kind of stuff, nor can you teach it. So. I think that sparked something in me to be resourceful. And then, just, kind of never take no for an answer. I don't know if you've seen the movie The Edge, but, there's kind of a famous quote in there from Anthony Hopkins that says, what one man can do, another can do. So I've always kind of adopted that. Before I saw the movie, it was really from my dad. I saw that. I was like, man, my dad taught me that. And then my partners, there's four of us, like I said, and they all have that same attitude. I think it's pretty rare to find one person with that attitude. And we were all living together 12 years ago. I mean, the stuff we were doing back then was crazy. Just very different than all of our friends. We're, canoeing the bayou. We bought this sailboat. We were fixing it up ourselves. We had these handmade windows. We were fixing the engine ourselves, doing just all kind of stuff. Like there was nothing we couldn't do. And the Turtlebox was born out of that, just kind of that resourcefulness. We built the deck, this huge deck on the back of our property. Buffalo Bayou kind of floated through the back of our property. So, like an 1,100 square foot deck, like suspending deck over the side of it. I mean, it was cool. Then we built it like a stage. We'd had concerts back there and big parties, and just did life differently.
Sounds like you lived in a fraternity house.
It was like doing college again. I did live in my fraternity house in college for 3 years, so it was like doing it all over again. Just in our late 20s and early 30s, so it was pretty cool.
A little bit more money. Life was nice and easy.
No, we had no money. So yeah, we were broke as a joke. Actually, it would have been in 2010, I think, when we moved in together. And it was right after the 2009 kind of crash, 2008, 2009. And two of us were in real estate, two of us in oil and gas. So the real estate guys were broke, like dead broke, like pawning shit, kind of to get, looking for loose change to get gas in our cars.
Pockets, looking in the couch.
Yeah, we were rubbing pennies together. So no, we didn't have more money in college. I probably had more money in college because I was working all kind of jobs in college. But anyway, no. But I got through that period and eventually, made the Turtlebox. Still had our corporate jobs for a long time. I mean, I think Jonathan was the first one to quit full-time corporate world and go Turtlebox, and that was in COVID, 2020.
Damn, so you were still working part-time.
Oh yeah, I mean, Turtlebox didn't pay the bills for a long time. We didn't pay ourselves. I mean, we ran this thing super, which I think is one reason why we've been successful is, we just stewarded it well, never paid ourselves, always put every dime back into the company and ran it lean. Like that same resourcefulness is how we ran the company. And, eventually everybody went full time. I was working for myself back then, so could kind of do both for a while until the company could afford to pay us, anything until it turned profitable. And those are hard years. Everybody looks at it like, man, y'all came out of nowhere. I'm like, no, it's been a minute. It's been 12 years of really hard work, and but it has paid off. There's a lot of things we did right. I think resourcefulness, and then 2, we invested in the brand from day one. Like wanted to build a brand, not just a product, and so really spent a lot of our decisions and money and effort around protecting and building a brand.
I'm glad that you mentioned that you guys have built a brand over a product, because I do agree. Like, I'm looking at the neon turtle logo thing that's new, and I think it's super cool. When I saw it on Michaela's jacket last week at the Houston Fishing Show, I was like, I need that. And then she tells me it's only for the women that work here. I was like, get out of here. Like, but no, I get it. It is a brand. And one of the things I want to ask before I delve into that though, is what did it feel like when you committed to going full time? Did you feel like it was a risk? Was it a leap, or was it like, okay, I feel secure?
Yeah. It's probably different for me than the other guys. Me and Reagan both worked in real estate at the time. So I was corporate real estate until, I don't remember what year, but quit that and went out on my own as a developer, and so started buying up commercial properties and developing them ground up or redevelopment, and so had the flexibility to do both. To me, it's like I never was not full time. I mean, I remember spending thousands of hours on this when it was just a garage product, and that transition from garage to mass manufacture. I mean, just thousands and thousands of hours. To me, it never did not feel not full time, but I didn't have to quit a nice big corporate like Jeff and Jonathan did. They had great jobs, high paying jobs, and took a big risk quitting those. And so for me, it kind of felt like was always, there was not this big of a transition, but I did have to kind of wind down my real estate company, which was a great company. It was a lot of fun, and still like it. Would still like to do more in the future. But that basically just means I can't go buy something. Like it's not like, real. It's just you're busy when you buy something and put a project together, and when you're developing it and when you're done, like you're not busy on it anymore. So shutting that down was more just like, well, I don't have the time to go buy anything new. That's kind of more or less what that looked like. Yeah,
I feel it. Since your answer was a little bit more different than like your other partners, like you said, I might as well ask a different question then before we move on to talk about how this is more of a brand. But what was the biggest sacrifice that you had to make for Turtlebox?
Oh man, there's been I don't even know where to start with that. We've all made a lot of sacrifices.
But you as an individual?
Yeah, first one that comes to mind is like we launched the company the day that my daughter was born. So like, and we'd already planned it. Like we launched on Indiegogo. It's kind of like a Kickstarter if you're not familiar with it. And like the date was set. There'd been this big ramp up. Like we were launching it. I don't remember what time. 10 a.m. on July 23rd, 2018. That's when my daughter was born. And so I'm like, well, we can meet at the bottom of the hospital. There's a restaurant down at the bottom of the hospital. And like, so that's where we launched Turtlebox, was at the bottom of the hospital. So, I mean, and all of us have those stories. There's way too many I can't even begin to think of them all. There's been a lot of sacrifices. And it's fun. It's worth it. But, business kind of takes over your life, and in a good way, but, a lot of sacrifice comes with that too. And our wives made a lot of sacrifices. I actually kind of acknowledged them at our last Christmas party in front of everybody, because I feel like they made the biggest sacrifices, because this thing wasn't making money for a long time, still probably the majority of the time. So there's a lot of sacrifice with that, because we all had full-time jobs. So when do you meet? You meet at like 9 o'clock at night. And, so I feel like our wives had a lot of sacrifice as well, and should be acknowledged.
Well, I'm glad you did that too.
Yeah.
When you guys first, were having those beers and decided, hey, like, let's make this a brand. Did you ever think it would actually turn out like this and get this far?
Oh, no way. I envisioned it doing well in the garage. Like, man, there's some people that could do this, and, would want to buy it, and definitely had a vision for it as this garage-made product. Turtlebox, has a life of its own at this point, and it did even then. I think it's obviously exceeded all of our expectations. And that's kind of the beauty of having 3 other partners, is that I'll go back to my real estate career, and I was a solo guy, and was developing this gas station that just whipped my tail during COVID, and was and when interest rates were peaking and all this stuff. It was pretty dang hard doing it by yourself. I equate it to like rolling a boulder up a hill. Like, every day you got to wake up and push this boulder up the hill, or it's not going to get pushed, and you're the only guy. And so having 4 of us makes pushing that boulder a lot easier with Turtlebox. Still hard,
I bet,
but it's been blessing to have other great guys that can help push that boulder up the hill, because that's what it is. But eventually get it to the top of the hill, and it starts rolling down, like it's got momentum. And, I think COVID for us was kind of peaking that hill. Like, I remember in February doing an Instagram post, and I don't remember what I said on the Instagram post, but I'm never very face forward on our Instagram. But that was one where I like had the camera, and I was down by the bayou, and was like telling a story, like, this is where we all started, right here on this bayou, and basically telling people to support us. Because I was like, man, we're gonna have to shut this thing down. Who's gonna need a portable speaker in COVID?
Yeah.
Like, the world's ending. No one needs a $400 portable speaker.
Well, then everyone got $7,000 checks, and everyone
that's
got
right. Everybody got a stimulus check. But everybody started investing in their backyards and being outside, and it was the opposite. And demand went through the roof. Supply went down. We couldn't get them. We were sold out 6 months out of that year, on and off. So super hard, but I think that was kind of the top of the hill. We got through that season, and on the backside of COVID, like, just I call it a flywheel. Like, the flywheel was moving. And it just kind of, the brand does really take a life of its own. People became real passionate about it. People that bought it just really fell in love with it for one reason or another. I think people kind of saw like 4 guys trying hard to do something, and created something for them that didn't exist in the marketplace. The outdoorsmen, and I think those people became super passionate about the product. But when we launched, we said, what are we going to talk about? Like, take Instagram, for example. What are we going to talk about with one product? You can't just take pictures of your product every day, and like, people are going to get tired of hearing about it. So we wanted to have something more of value to give our customer base. And so for us, that was Live Free, was kind of the story of living free, which is shaking off the fear of man and being who God created you to be. Like, there's something special in each of us and unique, and, living free out of that, not what the world tells you to be. And that was our thing of value to give consumer. Whether we voiced it, we're not just saying live free all the time, like on every post, but it's the essence of living free. It means something a little bit different to everybody, and how they express it, but it's could be breaking out of your 9 to 5 and living for something that matters. It could be in your 9 to 5, but living passionately and living for your family and things of value. But, I call it living for what God put inside you that's unique to you and finding that thing and letting it out in the world. The world needs that too. It doesn't need another JT Van Zandt or John Dunaway. It's already got those. Like it needs a Will Bradley, or
all right, put on a superhero cape, please.
It needs an Andre Spaghetti,
I'll take that all day.
So, like if you weren't being you wouldn't have your badass book that you made.
Thank you.
Like that was something unique that only you could have done, and
I appreciate that.
The world needs it. Yeah. Even if it was just one other guy that needed it needed it.
Yeah, it's fair.
Or if the whole world needed it. If you sold hundreds and millions of them.
For my sake, let's say the whole world.
I hope the whole world. Which the whole world does need this book, by the way. It's awesome.
It's already 15% sold, so we got another 75 or 85% left.
Heck yeah. So yeah, giving something of value to our consumer base. So I think that is something that people connected with. People, at the end of the day, it's just it's a Bluetooth speaker. Like, like people aren't going to get that passionate about that, but getting behind a brand and standing for something, I think people can get behind that.
I think turtle boxes are when you see someone get into the space and start taking it more seriously, eventually you see them end up with a turtle box. I think the speaker is more than just a speaker. I think it's like not a badge, if you will, but it's kind of like, hey, like I'm about it. Like I'm about the outdoors. Or for example, I don't know, explain it more so than the fact that it's like the more serious you get about being outside, the more likely you will end up owning one of these is what I'm trying to get to. So I do completely agree. One of the things you mentioned about the Live Free slogan or logo or however you wanted to or mission statement, if you want to put it like that, is I think that for a lot of people, it's whenever they get to, be in a scenario where they find themselves with one, it typically represents like a break of the mundanity of life.
Yeah.
Like you said, the 9 to 5, breaking free from all of that for even a split second. Because at the end of the day, the 9 to 5 is just a means to an end, being able to do what you love.
Yep. We say music makes everything better. So it's like enhancing outdoor experiences. Like and there's times where we tell people don't turn it on. Like drifting a beautiful river or something. Like there's time where you just want to be quiet, but for me, I'm kind of like the music goes everywhere with me, and like
that's why you didn't shoot that elk.
Yeah, no, I
playing elk calls on the Turtlebox.
I actually did bring. I brought one of our prototype Rangers on that trip. So, but back by the campfire, I did not take it backpacking with my elk. No, but it just enhances outdoor experiences. I think music just makes everything better, and like it's just fun, and it's a great way to celebrate. Like even if you are quiet pursuing a redfish or something and don't want music on, but like, think of the celebration after you land that fish. Like it's just more fun. A great example is Houston Astros. We got connected to them a few years ago. We got this epic picture with Alex Bregman when they won the division, I think. And he had the Turtlebox, like it was a trophy, holding it up, and in the champagne room or whatever, where they're all spraying each other with Budweiser and champagne and stuff. And I was like, dude, we got the chance to talk to him. He came by the office, and I was like, how did that picture happen? And he goes, well, when we go to visiting teams, they ice you. Like, when you're warming up, they turn the music off completely. Like, imagine like trying to get pumped for a game and you got no music. Like it's just. And it's quiet, like you can hear a pin drop, like it's real weird. So they would bring the turtle boxes, and so they could hype themselves up when they're warming up. And the same thing when they won at the visitors' locker room, there's no music. Like, how weird is it? Like celebrating, it's just quiet. Like so, they had the turtle boxes. Like, dude, go get the turtle box.
So that was them just like pumping it. Yeah,
So it's cool, but it's the same way with like for me fishing or hunting. Like it's just makes it more fun, especially on the post. We talk about like the prep, the pursuit, and then the celebration. So like. It's great in the prep, like leading up to it. Imagine like putting the decoys out in the morning, jamming to music. Like you're tired, and but putting the music on, putting the decoys out is a lot more fun. Or music on the ride out on a boat, watching the sun come up. It's freaking great. And on the way back, man, like the celebration is just it's just better with music.
Or even when you choke, at least you listen to good music on the way home.
That's right.
So I got 4 more questions essentially. Before.
And a fishing tip, by the way. This is the only good advice I got. If you're not catching fish, turn the turtle box on.
Turn the turtle box on.
Yeah.
Bring them in.
People think it scares fish away. It doesn't. Put it on the cushion. But it'll change the mojo, it'll change the vibe. I'm telling you, you'll start catching fish.
I've run it. I've done the same thing. My mom gets mad at me sometimes, especially when we're fishing. But it's like, I mean, I'm used to it now. Like I actually do really enjoy having that thing playing music.
Yeah, you got to change the mojo up.
As someone who's very like keen to music, and curiously enough, I want to know your favorite kind of music, things that you listen to, things that get you hyped, or whatever in the scenarios that you just described right now.
Yeah, a lot of Whitney Houston, a lot of Miley Cyrus.
Yep.
Depending,
Sabrina Carpenter.
Go back and forth. Depending what the vibe is. I do have a funny. Before I actually answer that question seriously, Jeff, one of my other partners, he kind of came up with this. I don't know if he came up with it or remember the Sexy Sax guy that used to play
absolutely.
Careless Whisper.
Yes.
So we started doing that back in the day with the first Turtleboxes. We'd roll the windows down the car. He had this old yellow Suburban, like 1980s Suburban, and roll the windows down. I don't think it had a radio anyway, so we'd use the like garage-made Turtleboxes, and they weren't loud. And we'd roll by like a patio, like you find like a perfect patio on a spring day, where everybody's sitting outside. And you just roll by, stone cold, like just staring straight, not smiling, serious, be playing Careless Whisper as loud as you can. And everybody on the patio is like looking at you, just laughing, and so me and my buddy Carlos, who's a great fisherman, in his boat, anytime we come back in the marina, we play Whitney Houston or Careless Whisper, something like really, really funny, just serious, like two dudes or whatever rolling into the marina, blaring Whitney Houston, just to get the laughs, just to turn some heads and be idiots. Like, I don't know.
No,
anyway.
I like that, but like in a more serious,
you got to make it fun. That's what I'm
obviously
saying.
No, 100%.
You got to make it fun.
I ain't gonna disagree with you with that at all. If I know, like, if, for example, that would have been a perfect moment because I can do like the air horn on this thing. I go, but I don't want to try it right now. Like, but I was gonna do it right there.
Yeah, to answer your question, I love like just good old folk music. I would put like Shane Smith in that genre, even though it kind of probably get looped into Texas country, but kind of folk rock is probably something that I usually find myself listening to. My wife listens to a lot of country, so I listen to a lot of country as well. Love good country, but not bro country. So you gotta, like bro country was in 5 years ago, but I feel like country's making a good comeback. Like Zach Top. There's some really great country artists.
Any
right
Turtlebox
now.
ambassadors that are actual country artists?
Good question. We've got a lot more in like the Texas country space than like true country space. But Shane Smith is an ambassador. Red Shahan is a great, but he's kind of got his own genre. I'd probably put him more in folk rock than I would in Texas country, but and he's phenomenal. Brent Cobb right there behind you. So yeah, we've got some really great ones. Man, we don't have a perfectly true country guy. I would like Zach Top. I mean, if I could sign one, it would be Zach Top. He's like bringing the 90s back, but in his own way. He's crushing it. I think he's super cool. Hoping to get to meet him at Houston Rodeo. So we'll see if we can maybe get a chance to talk to him and make that happen.
Yeah. Well, that kind of leads me to my next question, which is, what excites you about the future for Turtlebox, or where do you see this brand in half a decade?
Yeah, man, it's hard to know. I'd say at this point, it kind of has a life of its own. We just try to steward it well, is what I tell people. Not screw it up, but also not get in the way of it either. Like it's going to have a life of its own, and it's excuse me, and it's because that investment in the brand, like. We're still learning what Turtlebox has permission to do outside of just the original speaker. I mean, we just launched two new products, a big one and a small one. We've been a one product company for 6 years, which is pretty crazy. That we've been able to have the growth we've had with just one product. And the feedback on the Grande and the Ranger was really, really good. And that kind of said, okay, yeah, you do have permission to do more things in audio, bigger and smaller, and the market received it super well. We sold out of the Ranger in 2 days, which was
I can imagine, yeah,
which was crazy. So that's kind of one thing we're listening to is what does the brand have permission to do, and also what does the market need. We never want to force the market. Like we ask ourselves, does this product deserve to exist when we're talking about new things around here? And we've got a lot of cool stuff going in the office. Like I said, the Grande and Ranger took 3 years, so there's a lot of other fun stuff in the works. We're trying to look 5 years out because it does take so long to produce products, but we're getting better at it. I think we can maybe get that down to 2 years, but even just, again, takes a long time when you're building things to the quality that we're building them and for the use cases that, people use these things. It's always mind blowing to some of the stories we hear. Like, I don't know if y'all heard the Alaska story. There was a couple walking the beach in Alaska and
I did hear. Yes, I did hear the story. Yes.
The wife stumbles across a turtle box and she didn't know what it was, but she never heard of a turtle box, but she sees the button, she turns it on, follows the Bluetooth, and connects to her phone, and it starts playing. Like, what the heck? Middle of nowhere, Alaska. And anyway, it's got a boat vessel vehicle tag number on the back, like a sticker. So they were able to go to the marina and talk to somebody. And like, oh yeah, that's go talk to them. You can figure out what boat it is. So they track it down and find the boat. Talk to the captain. Like, oh yeah, that was one of our deckhands speakers. It fell off, 7 weeks ago or 6 weeks ago.
7 weeks ago. Wow.
And floated 70 miles over 6 weeks in the ocean, and ended up 70 miles, in a different area completely. And they returned it to the guy, still playing. Those guys became friends, and that was probably the coolest story we've ever heard. But we've heard of there's just always last week 2 house fires, in the same week. And the only thing that survived was their Turtlebox, and still playing. We actually have one out here in the office. They sent it back to us, and we sent them a new one.
Is it all burned up?
It's all burned up. The speaker's a little melted, but it's still working.
Damn.
Perfectly. It's crazy. So we don't build these things for fire, but we build them for, big falls and big water and stuff like that. But, they're pretty bomb proof, and people freak out when they have that kind of experience with it. They just become so loyal to the brand. And, we heard that happen a lot in the flooding in North Carolina. People lost everything, but and they had that, but their Turtlebox still worked, and it was just a little bit of hope, and just a terrible, terrible time. It offered at least and they turn it on and.
At least they can play some Careless Whisper.
Yeah, hopefully it wasn't Careless Whisper, but hopefully it was something good. But yeah, the stories like that are just so humbling to hear. Very, very, very cool. And it's fun that when people share them. So
yeah, no, I can imagine. Before I ask the last 2 questions, I will say, out of my own, from my own bias, I would love to see Turtlebox try to dabble in the distance casting game.
Yeah, I was pretty blown away seeing your cast on your phone. So I need you to teach me. I would love to start trying that, and like I said, just keep getting better and better. So
you think that's cool? I told you that earlier, but I told you this earlier, but I might as well brag about it here. My mentor Rick Hartman, just 2 days ago at the Denver fishing show, was messing around with stiffer rods. So just so you can understand how far some of these guys have taken it, even in Europe. When I say 5-weight distance casting, like I was telling you earlier, you can do that with a 10-weight rod. So these guys are throwing, they're bending, the top of the midsection of a 10-weight, typical, I think some guys use the Method, some guys the Asquith, and there's the HD, the Hot Torpedo that Paul Arden makes, but they're all 10-weight rods, and they're throwing them. But anyway, so Rick, for his whole life, he never really practiced with the 10s. And he actually ended up only doing 5s, and no one ever believed that, or could ever understand how he could always do the 130 with a 5 properly and go forward and forward. He was hitting 140s back then too. And so he grabbed the 10 weight at the Denver fishing show 2 days ago, and he cleaned one at 145, 146.
That is insane. Insane.
And it's one of those things where it's I think if people could see it, then they'd understand how awesome it is. But it's hard for someone to say, 146 feet. Okay, cool. I don't know. This is my thing. I'm just saying, put it in the back of your mind, be open to it.
That's crazy. I'd love to see it. We're actually busting at the seams at our current office. I don't know how much longer we can limp along here before we just run out of space completely. But we're kind of dreaming about a new office. One of the things we want is a casting pond out front.
Yeah.
So maybe stock it with some bass or something, but just go out there and be able to cast would be pretty dang fun.
That'd be really cool, actually.
We'll see if it happens. Cool. But bucket list.
Well, okay, so then to end it off, I do always ask the same 2 questions. The first one, always the same again. Looking back at everything that you've done as an individual, as a businessman, as a father, as a husband, whatever, is there anything that you wish you would have done differently throughout this journey?
No, there's not. I mean, there's probably a lot of things we would change, but who knows if it'd end up where it is today. So I'm thankful for that. You kind of learn through the pitfalls and, the hard lessons, and those end up sharpening you and making you a better man and better businessman, and making a better business and better product too. I think the most important thing outside of company and Turtlebox, that I'm really focused on is my kids. That I learned a lot of stuff I learned from my dad, how to be resourceful, fell in love with the water because of him. Like, that's really want to instill that into my kids and make sure that Turtlebox or life doesn't get in the way of that, but helps with that, like make sure they're experiencing the things I fell in love with, make sure they're around the water, make sure I'm teaching them. And so that they're not learning from somebody else, but they're learning from me and learning from Dad. And I think part of that is giving them adventure.
Absolutely, yeah, totally.
Getting them out of their comfort zone, getting our family out of its comfort zone, and providing them with great adventures, because they're teaching moments.
Absolutely.
So that's when you said family and business and all that. That's the most important is the kids and the wife and a healthy family. But my kids are young. All of our kids are young. They're all 4 to kind of 8-year-old, 9-year-old, and so it's a fun age and it's busy. Like, I wasn't the only one that had kids in this time. We all got married about the same time. We all had kids about the same time. So all of us have made these same sacrifices. We all started a company and had me and my wife had 3 kids, 3 and under. So I mean, it's been a crazy busy last 7 years, 8 years. And so now it's kind of looking like, all right, and it's been busy. I mean, it's hard to find an extra 5 minutes in the day. And so we'll make sure my kids don't suffer because of that. Make sure that we are carving out time to, because it just goes fast. You look up and they're 2 years older, and it's crazy how fast they grow up. So making sure that the things that my dad instilled in me, to make sure I'm being a good dad at the end of the day and pouring back into them is probably top of my priority list right now.
Bro, absolutely, yeah. The last question I like to ask, and I mean, with your kids in mind on this one, for the next generation. So the kids who may be a little bit older than your oldest right now, so like 12, 14, 16, who may be listening to this, what is like a piece of advice that you'd give them in terms of, well, let me back up a little bit. Think that these kids are people who want to be in the industry, either professional, behind the scenes, retail, guiding, whatever, same industry, outdoors. What is a piece of advice that you'd give them going into that?
Yeah, like be in the outdoor industry.
Mm-hmm.
Well, really, no matter what industry, that they would be the same piece of advice. I would start with know thyself, and these are lifelong things, by the way. So it starts when you're a kid, and it goes till you're dead, really. But know thyself. Know what you're good at. Know what your strengths, your weaknesses are. Know what fires you up. Know what makes you, what you're passionate about. Know what you're not good at. Know what you don't like. I mean, I'm still doing that today. Like, you don't hit a certain age and you're there and you made it. You're constantly knowing yourself better so that you can set yourself up to do more of what fires you up and what you're good at, and do less of what you're not good at. Right? It's kind of like the 80-20 rule. So know thyself. That's a lifelong pursuit. The other is be a lifelong learner. Like, it doesn't end at high school or college, or like, be a learner, like just till you die. Constantly be learning, because who knows what God's got for you, or what you're supposed to do in this world. You may be blazing a new trail, like like I said, you don't have to do exactly what someone has done before. You can use them as a mentor or a guide, but I like to look at like value systems, like put in certain values, like I'll use Yeti as an example. Got to meet the Cedar brothers like 12 years ago, early in our career, and he asked me what was the most valuable thing about Yeti. Was it the product or whatever? And I was like, yeah, I guess it's the Tundra or keep an ice cold. And he goes, no, it's the brand. I was like, oh, okay, it's the brand. And so why I share that story is, obviously Turtlebox has its own route, a very different route. It's an electronic product in an outdoor industry, but one of the things learned from Roy and Yeti is value systems. Is investing in the brand and creating something that's the best in that marketplace. And so those are values that I took from him, and Turtlebox has its own route and it's going to do its own thing. And there's other values we've taken from other companies, Apple being one. We took the idea of simple, like always make a product more simple.
Like user interface simple?
Think of Apple taking things away from the product. Like, it used to have aux ports and like 3 different holes in there. Now it's only got one. It's got one. Just making it more and more simple. A product is perfect when you can take nothing else away. As my other partner Jonathan always says. And so I think it's also more beautiful. But anyways, that's a value, and we're obviously not like Apple. A lot of things we don't want to do like Apple, but being simple is one of them. And so and it's the same thing in life. Like, you can look up to mentors and try to take, look at what they value, some of their value systems, and apply that to your life. It doesn't mean you're going to have to be on, do exactly like they did, but you can
take bits and pieces and add it to your own story.
Yes. And I think that's kind of the things that I would look for. And some of these people you admire is not, you don't have to copy their exactly way of life or the way that they did it, but it's a great tool, a great resource. And the things to take away are their value systems, like your values drive you. And so pay attention to those, write them down. And then I think that'll help you kind of blaze your own trail in life.
And live free.
And live free, man. That's the crux of the matter.
All right. Well, with that being said, is there anything else you wanted to have said before we get out of here?
No, this is great, man. Thanks for taking some time, and thanks for coming by
Absolutely.
the Turtlebox warehouse. It's good to have you here, and I'm excited to buy one of those books when we leave this. So I'm excited to get that on the coffee table. So
cool. All right. Well, I don't have to delay it anymore. We can just get out of here.
All right, man. Enjoyed it.